People will be in the comments saying that they don't think that the page is balanced because I don't do any post critiquing the Republicans. My entire life growing up, I've heard nothing but negative things about the Republicans, probably the same as you. I've never heard any of the shit that I've recently found out about the Democrats though. When you realize that, then you understand that this page isn't the thing that's unbalanced. It's the information that we received as a culture growing up. People say I should post the negative things Donald Trump has done. Every negative thing he's ever done has been publicized en masse. I would just be telling you things you already know. I don't understand how people don't get that. They don't realize that they're living in a liberal echo chamber. I don't have to go anywhere to hear negative things about Donald Trump. My favorite comedian, D.L. Hughley, is going to talk about it. One of my favorite podcasters, Joe Budden, is going to talk about it. My favorite rappers are going to talk about it. The media that we ingest is unbalanced. It doesn't give you Donald Trump's achievements and his failures. It only gives you his failures. It doesn't tell you that the Republicans did good things and bad things. It only tells you they did bad things. It doesn't tell you the Democrats do anything. Stephen A. Smith said,
3 weeks and 1 day since Joe Biden stepped aside. The only damn place we've seen Kamala Harris is at pep rallies. Somebody got to say something. And it can't just be the conservatives. Right is right. You running for the presidency of the United States of America. You got my vote. You running for the presidency of the United States of America. What you hiding for?
That's how you critique the left. Come out and talk so that we understand what your platform is. But you got my vote, but come out and talk. We don't recognize how big our liberal echo chamber is. We've just been able to take the truth for granted. That's why I used to feel like the police were hunting me. When I saw the George Floyd thing, I was like, wait a minute. Because the marketer in me instantly kicked in like, wait a minute. They only show black people getting killed by white police. That's marketing. Because when I went and looked it up, the truth is more white people are killed by police than black people. And I know the instant rebuttal that comes in your head is rated death, isn't it? Where did you get that from? What article did you read? Because you didn't go out there and do the research yourself. Who did you hear parrot that over and over again so that you wouldn't have to think any further? So that you could just wrap it up in a nice little bow and say, oh, racism. The truth is, regardless of the rate, you've never heard any of the names of the unarmed white people that died. You can't name one, but it's more of them than us. You've never heard them because someone is trying to manipulate your mind into seeing the police brutality thing as a race issue. Even though a black scholar went out and did the actual research and found out that there was no bias.
Yes, we saw some bias in the low-level uses of force, every day pushing up against cars and things like that. People seem to like that result. But we didn't find any racial bias in police shootings. Now, that was really surprising to me because I expected to see it.
The post that I made asking, did the Democrat rhetoric incite any violence? And people are saying, no, you don't know how many white people died from the police. You only know the black ones. Where did that narrative come from? Which side pushed that? The left or the right? Which side pushed that? Which media networks pushed that narrative? The left ones, the liberal ones. Which TV shows reinforced it? Which movies reinforced it? Which music reinforced it? Which celebrities? Which politicians? Who all endorsed this narrative and this concept? The left did. With just seeing the one-sided perspective, how many black people would you imagine are being killed by the police based on what you've received from your liberal world sphere or whatever? Then when you go and look up the number, you'll see how your imagination, the world that you feel like you live in, doesn't match up with reality. They average 20-something a year. That's not an epidemic. If you compare it to the 70s, when it used to be 80 people in a year in one city, it's now 20 across the country as far as unarmed. You ask someone, how many black lives do the police save a year? And no one knows, because then you don't have a total perspective to actually make a decision. If the risk outweighs the benefit, then people think it's bad. If the benefit outweighs the risk, people take the risk. How many police interactions do they have with black people a year? No one knows. The amount of interactions they estimate that the police have with black people is about 6.6 million a year. And the amount of unarmed deaths averages to be about 20. That doesn't sound like an epidemic anymore. Why didn't they tell you the entire picture? It's because they're trying to control the world that you imagine you live in. The left created the stage for the George Floyd riots. by making us feel like we were being hunted by police every day, that rogue Klansmen were putting their knee on people's neck and suffocating them.
The officers were holding Floyd in what attached MPD training materials call maximal restraint technique. The training materials include a photograph of an officer with his knee on the suspect's neck. This comes despite MPD Chief Madera Arredondo repeatedly saying after the death of George Floyd that officers are not trained to put their knee on a suspect's neck.
Without even reading the autopsy and seeing that asphyxiation is nowhere on the autopsy, without listening to the medical examiner say,
that's just not something that I think we see as medical examiners, pressure to the back of the neck explaining a strangulation.
Or an asphyxiation.
Correct.
We've never seen asphyxiation come from the back of the neck. That's not how it works. The world that a lot of people are living in right now is not the real world. They don't recognize that they live in a very large liberal echo chamber. The rappers, the TV shows, and all these people doing the docuseries and all that shit that's disrupting you emotionally, which shapes your personality if you haven't seen that video yet, those people are claiming to be on your side. But they want you to live in a world where you feel like this, where they benefit from you feeling like this, where they win awards for making you feel like this, where they get elected for making you feel like this, where they raise $91 million for making you feel like this. Why would they ever actually help you? Like Malcolm X said,
if you study the structure of the Negro community, economically, politically, civically, psychologically, and otherwise, it's controlled by the white liberal, who usually poses as the friend of the Negro.
And like the communists wanted, they wanted to infiltrate and control our entire worldview, and I think they've successfully done so. If you've gotten to this part of the video, I really appreciate your time and attention. Thank you for caring enough to even watch the entire thing, even if you disagree. All right, so I'll see you on the next one. Peace.